Well, we're walking up on Green Acres. I want to thank the Department of Public Works for plowing Green Acres bike path. This is highly unusual when we stop by Piscataway Pete's Hole for the predictions. We normally don't have snow out here, but we have several inches of snow. Obviously, my Duncan and Catherine obviously love the snow. Come on, boys, let's go see what Piscataway Pete has to offer us. Come on, let's go. Stop beating the snow. Come on, let's go see what Piscataway Pete has to say. Come on, come on. Oh yeah, there we go. Oh, there, you guys know exactly what it is. Hold on, what do we got here, what do we have here, Duncan? Come on, what do we got? What do we got? What's down there? Okay, Duncan. Oh, Piscataway Pete didn't get the memo about plastic bags. We got to get him a brown paper bag next time. Okay, oh, looks like 2 notes. Okay, first one, hold on, let's see what it is. It says, oh, here we go. Hold on, you guys are gonna trip over me here. Okay, it says, Council Member Frank Earn announces Little League opening day, Saturday, April 11th, and I hope there's no snow with that. And then the second one is, oh, this is for a great cause. It says Council President Michelle Lombardi announces Community Cleanup Day, Saturday, April 18th. And I also want to add in, he also left a prediction. He said Piscataway Pete says New England over Seattle in the Super Bowl. So those are the 3 words of wisdom that Piscataway Pete has for us in February 2026 this year. So with that, we'll see everybody and stay warm. Well, I'm lucky to have in studio here Ward 1 Councilman Frank Earn. And I know Piscataway Pete, our famous groundhog, said that there was going to be 6 more weeks of winter, and I know there's a lot of snow still on the ground, and we just got out of an Arctic blast. However, in Florida, pitchers and catchers are reporting as we speak, and so which means Little League and all the baseball and spring recreational programs are going to be underway. So, Councilman, you've been obviously involved in Piscataway Little League for an awful long time, and also your wife with the Challengers and Kathy. Why don't you explain what Little League is, because there may be some folks out in TV land that don't know what the Little League program is, how it's set up, and what parents can expect.
Okay, we changed it around this year. Instead of doing majors and minors, we're doing age-based like we do in Pop Warner football. So we have a 9U division, which is 7, 8, and 9, and we have a 12U division, which is 10, 11, 12. And the reason being is I don't want the kids to travel anymore, because it was a nightmare last year when our major league teams would go to like South River and Old Bridge, and it just didn't work out well. So we're going to be staying home now. When
you mean travel, what is, for somebody who's not doesn't understand layperson?
They would have a game in Old Bridge, like say at 6 o'clock on a Friday night.
Traffic.
With traffic, it was very difficult to get the teams to get to Old Bridge and to Saraville and South River. So that's why we decided to do this age-based, which we already have registration, and we have over 100 kids signed up, and we're looking at 8 9U teams and probably 5 12U teams. So they'll be staying home this year.
So they'll be able to play them within the town.
Yes.
The teams within the town.
Yep.
Where in the past they used to have to travel out of town.
The major league used to have to travel out of town.
Okay. Well, I'm sure
it was a nightmare.
I'm sure a lot of the parents will be happy about that, because they won't have to get on the road. And some parents probably would have had to take off work early in order to get to the games on time. Yeah. So what do they need to sign up?
Sign-ups have already started. We have one more in-person sign-up, which is February 14th at the Little League Complex from 12 to 2, or you can go on the Piscataway Little League website, download the application, you can mail it to the P.O. Box. We take registrations right up to opening day, which is April 11th.
Oh,
so
okay, that's
we don't close it.
So what? There's also another program, also I believe T-ball.
T-ball is going very well. We opened it up last week, and we already have over 110 signups. Last year we had 12 teams. We're looking at probably 16 teams this year, if not more.
So why the increase?
I don't know. It's just
We're more words getting out there.
more words getting out there. And the other thing, Brian, is I got to tell you, we are the only town probably in New Jersey that it's free for the children, which is phenomenal. It's unbelievable.
Well, that's good because then it gets the kids involved. I know
Yeah.
the United States Conference of Mayors with the program Let's Play Ball in conjunction with the Major League Baseball has been putting a emphasis on getting, whether it's T-ball or Little League or anything like that, the recreation, because there's been a drop in the fan base with Major League Baseball, and they recognize that. So now they're starting at the ground level, again, to encourage towns and cities to have programs such as this.
Yeah. And it's also pretty funny because we had one lady come in and want to register something for T-ball, and she goes, "Well, how much is it?" I said, "It's free to Piscataway residents." Why are you lying to me? I said, "I'm not lying to you."
Yeah.
I made her day. She couldn't believe.
Really? Well, you know what? If you think about it, say you're a family, you have 3 children, roughly the same age. If you put them all in the program, say, well, it could be pretty expensive.
Yes.
And that's good. Now, there's also a girls' softball league.
We have girls softball league, which I hear is going well too. They already have their coaches, and we also have the junior baseball, which is 13 to 15.
So now I know there's like a slow pitch, fast pitch division, or they're teaching them fast pitch.
Yeah, they're going to have 2 divisions, which is the younger girls, and then the older girls, which is fast pitch, and the younger girls is slow pitch.
So the fast pitch more is they're gearing them towards when they could play softball in high school.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's good. Now, is that do they need volunteer coaches for that?
They're looking for coaches for that.
Okay.
Yeah.
For girls. And that'll be dependent upon how many teams, coaches you have for Little League and T-ball, correct?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, that's, you had 12 teams last year in T-ball, and now you're thinking.
Oh, we're going to have more. We have 12
Now,
teams.
when they, so if you're a parent and you want to volunteer, what do they have to do?
Just call the recreation department and, ask for, they can volunteer. And plus all the games are at Little League Field, which is good. They don't have to go
all over the
all
place.
over town to play. It's during the week, and we use the weekends for rainouts.
So also, what, the equipment obviously is supplied by the recreation department?
Yes.
And the uniform, the shirts?
Yes.
Okay. That's good. That's a big thing, and the kids
Yeah,
get a kick out.
the only thing they need is a glove.
I need is a glove.
And the shoes.
Yeah, and the shoes, yeah. Well, which is expected. You can't supply that. Last year, how many kids were signed up for T-ball last year?
T-ball, we had like 147 kids.
And that's only now, what, the 3rd year that the T-ball program is, or the 4th year?
This is going to be the 4th year, and the numbers have been growing every year. This is good though. I mean, like I said, we already have over 100 signups, and we're in week 2.
Yeah, that's good. As you said, you'll take it all the way up till the end of April. And then they play their games on the weekends.
No, they play during the week.
During the week.
And weekends are for rainouts.
Okay. Now, what happens with Little League? Is there?
It's the same thing.
Oh, they have it set up the same way.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's good.
Which is good because we have lights there, so we can do 6 o'clock games.
Yeah, I normally, because I live nearby the Little League complex. I can always hear when the cheering's going on. Real quickly, there's also, I believe, a Challengers League.
Yes.
Now, what is the Challengers League?
Challenger League, my wife Kathy runs that. We have 2 divisions. We have a minor division and a major division. The major division is 15 years plus. They play on Friday nights up at the Little League Field on Field 5, and they practice 1 day a week at Eisenhower.
Okay. Now, do they just solely have all their games up at a Little League complex?
Yes, all their games are Little League complex. Something that we might want to do this year, I think we're looking at, because I know Watchung and Edison have challengers. I think we want to do something with them, have them either come there or we go there.
Okay. So in other words,
we did that years ago, so we're going to try it again this year, see if it works.
Yeah. So in other words, they would be sort of a traveling team.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's good. I got to tell you, every year on opening day at Little League, seeing the participants in the Challenge League come out, it makes your heart feel very warm to make sure that no kid is actually getting left behind.
And that's free also. We don't charge the challengers.
Yeah, and that's good. So I just want to remind the parents of anything through the recreation department is free of charge.
Yes.
Real quickly, also you sit on the community outreach board.
Yes.
What is that all about? I mean, in layperson's terms.
Community outreach is a task force, which it's about abuse, drugs. We're reaching out to all the schools. Last year we went to all the middle schools and the high school, and we had a speaker speak to the children. This year we're going to be doing the same thing. We're also going to reach out to the Y.
Yeah, and I do know, like last year, was talking about drug addiction and things like that, and actually in cyberbullying too.
Yes.
So it's just not about. This was the after the DARE program went kaput. We decided to set this up, and it seems to be working out pretty good.
Yes.
And we were able to get some funding through the tobacco settlement, where we're using those funds to get the speakers, pay the speakers, and provide for the events, which is good, because you have to have how you're spending the money down and things like that. And each year we're getting a little bit more money, so we have that'll allow us to have more programming.
Yeah, we also have the Elks. They donated money last year, and they're going to donate money again this year. I talked to them last week.
Well, that is good. I want to thank the Elks Lodge here at Piscataway Elks Lodge for doing that, because that's sort of their mission too.
Yes.
One of the big things I thought was well received, that they had a very influencer come in and speak to the high school students, which was pretty wild. I was at that, and evidently he has over 1 million likes and followers and stuff like that, and a lot of the students knew who he was.
A lot of the kids also commented they were very impressed with the speaker, and they learned a lot.
You know what? My thing is that as long as we make it more programs, less classroom work, but more real life experiences, I have a feeling that they would tend to listen to that a little bit better. The last thing they want to hear is their parents getting on their case about something. But if you have somebody of their age group and/or not too much older explaining things that can go wrong in life, it puts a perspective on it. And some of the programming that the professor from Monmouth College was putting out in the criminal justice was very informative. And not only that, it wasn't just for the students, it was also for the parents.
Yes.
Which is very interesting, because in the past we didn't have the parents program for the parents. Now we have that, combining that with the students, and which is good, because then the parents could see what is being shown to their children, which is very good. So, any other sports programs down the road that we need to know about this spring?
Well, Pop Warner football registration is going to open May 1st.
Well, and the Super Bowl just finished up, and ironically, now you're saying, May 1st is going to be Pop Warner. Do you want to touch upon that very briefly, Pop Warner, how that is run and orchestrated?
Pop Warner, we have 2 flag divisions, which is
these are for flag football.
Flag football. Then we have a 8U, a 10U, and a 12U. And we travel, and our home games are at the high school. We start August 1st, and first game is
so
like
the first
September.
3 weeks are really for training,
Yes.
and then your first game is at the end of August.
Yes.
And then what league? What towns are in? Like, what are the teams roughly in the league?
We have South River.
Is it mostly Middlesex County,
Yeah,
Somerset
it's
County?
Middlesex County. There's about nine towns that are in the division.
Now, didn't Pop Warner change its rules? Like, they used to have a weight limit years ago. They don't have it anymore.
Well, they still do, but we don't do it in Central Jersey. We got rid of it in sort of Central Jersey. Now it's just age base.
Yeah.
But Pennsylvania still has the weight limit.
Oh, they do?
Yeah.
Interesting. I wonder why that is.
I don't know. My grandson plays it. That's why I know they do the weight limit.
Yeah, that's interesting. Because I remember there was always, when my 2 boys played in Pop Warner for a couple, you always had to get weighed in before the game, and that was always very interesting, because if you were a pound over, technically you couldn't play. And that's why some kids were always, fasting the night before so they could play. So, so what if a parent signs a child up, what entails that
For Pop
Warner?
It's going to be done online this year like they do in the T-ball. The only thing is the report cards are going to have to be handed in, because we can't collect the report cards to the end of the school year. And, sign up start in May, and you don't get your report card till June.
Oh, yeah, you don't get your report cards till the end of June.
They're going to have to hand that into recreation or to
But they
will
can
do.
get the paperwork
Yeah,
done ahead of time.
they'll do the medical form and the application online, and they'll be signed up.
So what does the town provide for the players?
The uniform, the equipment, everything.
With the exception of the cleats,
Yes, cleats.
but everything else is provided for, and
Yes.
that could be very expensive too if you had to buy your
Pop
own.
Warner is not cheap.
No,
You
with
know,
the
there's-
pads and everything else, and that could
know,
be very expensive.
Even with registration, towns around us, they charge $350 a child, which is,
So imagine that if you had a child who wants to play in Pop Warner football, you'd have to fork over roughly anywhere from $300 to $400 per child.
Yep.
And then also we have Pop Warner Cheer.
Yes.
Now, what does that entail?
Pop Warner Cheer is another program that is doing very well this year. The numbers have increased tremendously. The girls are actually going to Atlantic City at the end of February to compete. They were in North Carolina in December to compete, and they actually got a trophy there. The numbers, I got to tell you, I got to hand it to the coaches because they did a great job, and the girls, they have a lot of girls.
Yeah.
Which is, it's growing.
Well, one thing I noticed when we were at the high school games, some games they have the young Pop Warner Cheer along with the high school cheerleaders, which I think is a nice touch.
Yeah. Yes.
To get them to feel what it's like when you go to high school, what cheer can be all about.
Yep.
No, that's great news, Councilman. I think that's one of the great things about our community is that we much rather see children involved in programs instead of doing some potentially nefarious things out there. And that's why I always kid about people that, hey, there's no child should feel bored in this town because there's so much programming out there for both the parents and children out there to be involved in, to keep their minds stimulated and part of the mayor's wellness campaign.
Yes, it is.
Healthy, so.
And I got to tell you, it's free, and that's a really great thing Piscataway has. I mean, like I said, I go to other towns and they can't believe that we don't charge, and I says,
Well, that's been
have a great
over
mayor.
the years governmentally. I firmly believe in that. So if we can afford it, we do it.
Yeah.
So with that, I want to thank Ward 1 Councilman Frank Earn. Also, you wear many hats on the Community Outreach Board. You're involved in Pop Warner, also involved in Little League. Your wife Kathy's involved in a lot of stuff. So you guys don't sleep.
Nope.
And I want to thank you for all the hard work that you've done throughout the
very much,
years.
Mayor.
All right, we welcome here to everybody to Republic Indian Day here on this very balmy day here in Piscataway.
Yeah.
This is definitely not Indian weather, right?
Right.
No, that's right. This is Piscataway weather. Listen, I want to thank everybody from the Piscataway South Asian community for coming out here for Republic Day of India.
Okay, we're celebrating our Independence Day 77 this year, and we had a liberation from British Empire during the 1947, and after 2 years it came into August 15th as an Independence Day that was given to the community, people of India, and we celebrate every year. And after that we have progressed a lot during that time, and we're really thankful for all the people in the world to give us the opportunity to be a democratic country.
There you go.
Very good.
All right.
स्वतंत्र भारत के राष्ट्रध्वज को सलामी दो। भारत माता की जय। भारत माता की जय। We love America.
Yeah. And that's a great thing. And I want to acknowledge Frank Earn, our Ward 1 councilman here, and he's volunteered to buy everybody hot chocolate here. So with that, this concludes the ceremony. Thank you everybody for coming out on this very warm day here in Piscataway.
I'm honored to welcome you all to our annual Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. commemorative breakfast.
Why are we here today? To honor the life and legacy of Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and commemorate his holiday. On November 2nd, 1983, President Ronald Reagan signed the King Holiday Bill into law, designating the third Monday in January a federal holiday in observance of civil rights leader Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. The legislation to recognize Martin Luther King Jr. Day was first introduced just 4 days after his assassination on April 4th, 1968. Still, it would take 15 years of persistence by civil rights activists for the holiday to be approved by the federal government, and then another 17 years for it to be recognized in all 50 states. So that was just in the year 2000.
Sing a song full of the faith that the darkness has taught us. Sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought us.
My name is Andrew Millett, and I've selected an excerpt from former President Barack Obama's 2004 Democratic National Convention keynote address. Tonight, we gather to affirm the greatness of our nation, not because of the height of our skyscrapers, or the power of our military, or the size of our economy. Our pride is based on a very simple premise, summed up in a declaration made over 200 years ago. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Yet, even as we speak, there are those who are preparing to divide us. The spin masters and negative ad peddlers who embrace the politics of anything goes. Well, I say to them tonight, there's not a liberal America and a conservative America. There's the United States of America.
Sadly, in our country now is an increase in tension, and in some quarters, a lack of justice. For example, we benefit from the legacy of Dr. King and the Civil Rights Movement, yet historical markers are disappearing. Written accounts are being erased, right? Written accounts, believe it or not. That is not justice. Believe it or not, a mob stormed the Capitol. It could have been an end to democracy. Last year, they all got blanket pardons. That is not justice. Right now, one of our allies, a long-standing European ally, is being threatened with war over its land and resources. That is not justice. Dr. King also said, we have guided missiles and misguided men. So the work continues. It starts in a community, and it builds up, and it must. Our community, every community, relies on good people from all walks of life working together to move us forward.
The most important thing for him, in my opinion, was democracy. In other words, he felt that the First Amendment, the right to assemble, the right to protest, everything, the right to freedom of speech, all those things were important because, as Andrew said, if you don't have those things, then you can't actually thrive or bring justice to our country. And that's what's being tested right now, constantly. When I see protesters being shot, when I see efforts to limit the freedom of speech and crack down on newspapers or broadcasters that they can't say what they mean, this is all very much contrary to what he believed in. And of course, ultimately, the right to vote and the effort by President Trump to limit the right to vote around the country, which goes on every day. So far hasn't had much success, but it's constantly out there.
On behalf of the governing body, Dr. Saunders, for at least 25 years, whether an elected official or a volunteer, and both his lovely bride and former First Lady of the North Stelton AME Church, Shirley Saunders, have been the heart and soul of the Township Civil Rights Commission. And Ken's been a great leader. I know Shirley has stepped down on the Civil Rights Commission. I know I'm not going to miss the phone calls that I'm constantly getting from Shirley on things that she would like to see done.
And it's just a joy being able to still be in the land of the living and to be able to look and see your face. Let me thank Mayor and the council for honoring us. And you know, my wife had a stroke, and when she had a stroke, she went down. I went down with her because she was doing all the work, I have to admit. And so when she could no longer work, I could no longer work. I could have nobody tie my shoes or anything else. But seriously speaking, thank you, Piscataway. Thank you, North Stelton, for allowing me to be your pastor. Thank you, Piscataway, for allowing me to be your council person. Thank you, Mayor, for allowing me to be your friend. I love you. I love you. I love you. And there's not a thing you can do about it.
If we consider all that's happening in the world around us, if we take a serious look at things that's going on, this is not the way that it is supposed to be. The truth is that we have more technology than ever, but less trust. We have more information, but far less wisdom. More connectivity, but deeper isolation. Something is off. Something is different. Something stinks. And deep down, we all know it's true. What happened to us? What happened to the belief that we are responsible for one another? Not just moments of crisis, but in the ordinary work of just living together and having a neighbor. What happened to the conviction that freedom was never meant to be exercised in isolation, but freedom was to be exercised in relationship, with limits, with accountability for each of us? What happened to us? What happened to the idea that disagreement does not mean dehumanization? That when we disagree, we have to fall out? That we could argue freely and we can debate freely, but still see ourselves and see each other as humans, as friends, as neighbors. What happened to us? What happened to the idea where truth mattered more than violence and integrity mattered more than influence? What happened to us? What happened to the promise that progress meant bringing people with us and not leaving them behind us and calling it success? What happened to us? What happened to the moral imagination that asked, is this fair? Is this just? Is this right? Who's being left behind? Who's being left out? What happened to us? What happened to the beloved community that Dr. Martin Luther King spoke about? Where dignity was not conditional, where justice was not negotiable, where peace was rooted in equity and not quiet. What happened to the courage that once demanded transformation?